Good Tuesday afternoon. I'm Jerry Miller. Welcome to the I Love CVille show. It's great to be with you. We're live in Charlottesville, the Commonwealth, the country, and the world on the I Love CVille network. Give the show a like and a share on any of these Facebook pages. If you're watching on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter, welcome to the broadcast. A lot to cover on today's program, including a Russian vaccine in the macro headlines, Fashion Square Mall, and a follow-up to yesterday with Simon Property Group, who runs Fashion Square Mall, and whether or not they're going to convert some of the vacant storefronts, namely JCPenney's and Sears, to fulfillment centers. We'll have follow-up coverage and how that could apply to Charlottesville and Central Virginia for you on today's program. Also, an opportunity for you to attend PVCC for free. That topic coming up. And New York City and the Big Apple, more metrics to offer, updated metrics as folks in Manhattan are sprinting out of the city for the burbs and what that is doing for New York City right now and its short-term future. Give the show a like and a share. We'll talk ACC sports. We'll talk James Madison University as well and what's in store for rising juniors and seniors at the high school level if athletic departments are negatively impacted by football not happening. Remember, football creates the revenue for the golfs, the rowings, the tennis, the baseballs, the softballs, the cross countries, the track and fields. The non-revenue sports are funded by football, men's basketball, your donations. A part of the funding comes from tuition as a profit center woven into that package of tuition and the overall student experience. A portion of that money is allocated to the athletic department as well. So the question I'm going to ask you, if you're a high school athlete, even a middle school athlete, if you have aspirations of playing sports at some level, and we don't even have to talk Power 5 conferences, just sports at some level, how will the impact of not having football hurt you or impact you as you matriculate to college? Guys, thank you kindly for joining us. Interstate Pest and Service Companies, one of the phenomenal folks behind this show, a 4-generation strong business, Interstate Pest and Service Companies. We'll highlight Dr. Wagner in a matter of moments and also how you can save $288 through Ting Fiber Internet. Before we do, let's get to the first headline. Judah Wickhauer, our fabulous director. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but it's something that is consuming the news cycle. I wake up in the morning, first thing I do is I put on the financial news. I see the market popping a little bit. A lot of that pop has to do with a Russian dictator approving what he says, what his country says is the first COVID-19 vaccine in the world. I then immediately follow the folks on the financial newscasts who welcome doctors that have tremendous pedigree and reputation in the United States. And they say, guys, this right here is a Russian dictator trying to manipulate what you think. And his hubris, his ego wanting to be first from a world domination standpoint and following a vaccine. I'm a positive guy. I'm a hopeful romantic. I'm a cautious optimist. But do I put much into a vaccine from the Russians? I don't. Okay? Do I think the vaccine's going to happen in 2021 from a ubiquitous or scale standpoint? Yes. I've stuck to this. Even if we get one, the opportunity for it to be ubiquitous or administered or delivered at scale, I'm talking across the country, globally, and whether or not people are willing to take it. Heck, we have folks that don't take the flu vaccine, okay? Who's to say they're going to take the COVID vaccine, okay? So I think we need to pump the brakes and temper our expectations with a vaccine, certainly from a country like Russia, who's all about manipulation of perception and actual reality. The next headline I want to get to is a local headline, and it's a follow-up from yesterday. So yesterday I mentioned that Simon Property Group, its stock was popping. Simon Property Group owns a lot of the malls in the U.S. One of them it does is Fashion Square Mall. I have dubbed it Fashion Scare Mall because of the lack of storefronts or the lack of people there. The fact that it's frankly very ghost town-esque. Well, boys and girls, Yesterday's headline involved Simon Property Group and its conversion or its partnership with Amazon. And through this joint venture or partnership with Amazon, it was converting JCPenney's and Sears, empty, massive flagship retailers and storefronts. It was converting them, the scuttlebutt is that they're going to be converted to distribution centers for Amazon. That's early stage conversation, nothing more than an earnings report, conversation that happened on an earnings report. And that's what's happening with Simon Property Group. So on its earnings call, it says we're having conversations with Amazon. Immediately, everyone jumps to the conclusion of fulfillment centers in JCPenney's and Sears. And it could very well happen. Now, I believe, and this is a question for like a Neil Williamson or an expert of that nature, if anything were to eventually get localized here, I believe a zoning change would need to happen from a Sears or a JCPenney standpoint because they're zoned for retail and not necessarily warehouse distribution. So I'm going to ask a couple of questions. One of the questions I'm going to ask is, if Simon Property Group and Amazon do form a joint venture, what kind of impact could this have for Charlottesville? The second question I'm going to ask, should we only be considering the joint venture would birth or produce a distribution or warehouse center, or should we also consider that a joint venture between Simon and Amazon, this JV could birth or produce maybe a grocery store for them all? So I'm going to table that topic for now, and I'm going to go to the first one, which is Amazon good for Charlottesville? Folks, creating jobs is a positive, but not all jobs are great ones. Some new jobs and some new partnerships come with collateral damage. This must be considered. If we go down the road of having Simon and Amazon form a joint venture, and if that JV births or creates warehouse or distribution space in Sears or JCPenney's on Route 29, Albemarle County likely would need to do a zoning change. Before it did, I would very much encourage the Board of Supervisors to consider the collateral damage that would result from Amazon essentially making its supply chain even more efficient. And that's what a localized distribution center would do. First, it would very much impact the retailers in the city of Charlottesville and in Albemarle County and across central Virginia that are trying to beat Amazon with same-day delivery. A lot of your local mom and pops are beating Amazon because they're offering same-day delivery. At the same time, we are waiting on the Prime. We're paying for Prime, but we're not getting our stuff for 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe a week longer because they're so overloaded right now in this stay-at-home economy. So the local merchants are reaching out and saying to me, and they're asking through this vast platform that we've created, the I Love CVille network, to please remind the Board of Supervisors if anything should come through these Amazon and Simon Property Group talks. If anything should come of these talks, the merchants are asking me to remind the Board of Supervisors of them. That bringing in a giant that doesn't pay taxes, bringing in a giant that is essentially a monopoly, bringing in a giant to the local market in a lot of ways is the antithesis of what Charlottesville, Virginia is all about. A microcosm of this is what's happening on the University of Virginia corner. We have Sheetz, a gas station of all places, that makes MTO sandwiches on the UVA corner. Do we want to continue seeing the proliferation of big box, corporate 100, corporate 500, Fortune 100, Fortune 500 brands in our beautiful town? Or do we want to continue to support the merchants that are now climbing out of COVID and doing anything they humanly can to beat off this beast that's called Amazon? I prefer supporting the local guys. Now, before I get off this topic, I want to consider a second manifestation from this joint venture that is brewing. Instead of a distribution center or warehouse space in a JCPenney's or a Sears at Fashion Square Mall, and frankly speaking, a distribution center in Fashion Square Mall at Sears or JCPenney, I think would provide little value for any other aspect of the mall, right? No one's going to go shop at a distribution center and then walk through the hallways of the mall and shop at Sunglass Hut or get a coffee or go to Aeropostale or Abercrombie or J. Crew. Instead, Amazon has another arrow in its, what holds the damn arrows on a bow and arrow thing, Judah?
Quiver.
Amazon, thank you, Judah. Amazon has another arrow in its quiver. And that another arrow in its quiver, it's its grocery store business. So perhaps the idea that's percolating between Simon and Amazon is a grocery position in a mall setting. And a grocery position would make much more sense for the rest of the mall business because people go to grocery stores, they shop there, and maybe they would patronize the other businesses within the mall adjacent to the grocery store. Regardless, it's a topic we must follow as Simon Property Group, which has Fashion Square Mall, as Simon Property Group and Amazon are heading their way to a joint venture. The next topic I want to cover on this program is the flood crisis in Staunton. We highlighted this yesterday. Do you have the video from over the weekend with the flood rushing through downtown Staunton?
Yeah.
Okay, play that video. Guys, look at the screen. I'm going to talk over the video. You can just have a little sound in the background, not a ton of sound, J-Dubs. But play that video in 3, 2, 1. Let's look at the screen, guys. Here's the water that was rushing through downtown Staunton. This is what caused significant hundreds of thousands of dollars of destruction in downtown Staunton. I mean, this is serious. Imagine water like this running through Charlottesville, Virginia. Understand what I'm saying? Okay, so this is what's caused the heartbeat of Staunton, right around the corner from us, to be damaged. There's a GoFundMe that's going for Staunton that is now under a state of emergency. Judah, if you have the link for the GoFundMe, let's see if we can get that on screen. So help the city of Staunton recover GoFundMe. I'm looking at it now. This initially started as a $100,000 goal. It has now been raised to $125K. Of that 125, and do you have that on screen, J-Dubs? You do? Thank you. Of that 125,000, remember, it started at 100. It's now $1.25. Of that $1.25, we're at 93,000 and change. So some serious dinero is flooding through this GoFundMe to help the Queen City. Okay, and Staunton is a gem, especially its downtown. So I want to raise some attention for this. I want to give it some exposure. I can only imagine what the merchants of downtown Staunton are going through. They're freaking clinging for life coming out of COVID. We hope coming out of COVID. Many of them are restaurants and bars and breweries, and these restaurants and bars are the ones that have been ravaged and raped the most of any of the businesses due to COVID-19, and now they get hit with a flood. I mean, what the HE double hockey sticks? So we're driving some attention. We encourage you to get involved with the GoFundMe and support a community that needs it. And just imagine if it was Charlottesville and downtown that had to deal with this. Good night. Goodness gracious. Great balls of fire. Give the show a like and a share, guys. If you have comments or questions, I will relay the comments and questions before we get to the interview with Matt. Notice on the headlines there on the right, if you're watching the visual screen, I'm trying to give you a run-through of what's happening, influenced by one of my favorite programs, PTI, with Tony Kornheiser and Mike Wilbon. The next headline I want to get to is a positive headline. My wife sent this one over to me. We love highlighting positive news on the I Love CVille show. PVCC is giving you an opportunity, Piedmont Virginia Community College. It's on screen now. Thank you, Judah Wickower. This story by Tony Franklin and NBC 29. Piedmont Virginia Community College has unveiled a new program that will allow some local students to attend college with a free tuition. And if you're coming from a family and this family has an income of $65,000 or less, This is family, not individual. Well, individual would qualify too. You have an opportunity to enroll into a special program where PVCC will offer you free tuition through the PVCC 4U program. It's good news. It's positive news. We need some hope and some positivity. I think undoubtedly COVID has made education even more of a commodity than ever. What I mean by that, if you have money, if you have disposable income, if you have access to technology and fiber internet like Ting, and you can save $288 through the I Love CVille show through ilovecville.ting.com. But if you have money and disposable income, you have an opportunity to commoditize your education for your children like never before. And the commoditization of education basically means money gives you options, especially when it comes to school, especially when education has now been trapped in a COVID box. So the way you're going to get out of this COVID box from a learning standpoint, the way that you're going to spread your wings and fly, the way that you're going to get baby bird to leave the nest and get the education he needs to get his beak in the dirt, to get some worms to feed his belly. Unfortunately, in a 2020 COVID landscape, how you're going to break that box is having money. And it stinks. But PVCC is doing something positive where if your family is making $65K or less and you have some good grades, you have a chance to get some free tuition. And the beautiful thing about PVCC is if you do well for a couple of years at this school and you put some good grades up, you have an opportunity to get enrollment to any state school in Virginia. So you can go couple of years at PVCC, drop, 3 7s, 3 8s, 3 8s, 3 4, 3 5, 4 O's, and you finish after 2 years, and next thing you know, you're at UVA, Virginia Tech, JMU. That's legit. That is legit. That's some positive news for you. The next headline I'd like to get to, Judah, is New York City in a macro headline. And we'll get to your comments after this one, and then we'll talk LittleJohn's with Matt, one of the co-owners of LittleJohn's. We're trying to save LittleJohn's on the UVA corner. Nothing makes me more nostalgic of times on grounds with family than one of my first memories. I think it was like 92, 93. I'm 10 or 11. I'm in Charlottesville with my kid brother. It's about 18 months younger than me. And when your brother's 18 months younger than you, he's like your best friend and your mortal enemy. And you guys can be super tight homies, and you guys can be, on the street corner in the backyard with your baseball gloves on, and one of you's playing first base, throwing grounders to the other one, and he's playing shortstop, and you're trying to turn a double play at Wrigley Field with the Atlanta Braves visiting, and you're trying to win an NL pennant to get to the World Series and get the jinx off Chi-Town's back. And next thing you know, you guys are chasing each other through the backyard with the baseball bat, trying to clobber each other in the head. So the type of relationship we have, it's much more amicable and homey-ish now. But when you're growing up, you guys remember those days. One of the beautiful memories that I have of visiting Charlottesville, this is early, and remember, I first arrived in Charlottesville in 2000 as a precocious, mischievous, looking for trouble and looking for beautiful women and cold beer first year at the University of Virginia. I mean, that was my mission. To come here. It was beautiful women, cold beer, have some fun as a first year in Charlottesville. And a lot of you that are watching this program can remember those days. Those days are mostly behind me. Obviously, the beautiful women, the cold beer I still enjoy from time to time. But I guess where I'm going with this is one of my most beautiful memories is sitting with my brother, my mom, and my dad before a football game and eating a wild turkey. And watching my dad, who went to the University of Virginia, we're second generation, my brother and I, he also went there, watching my dad, first generation, like reminisce over a ranch hand. And when he took a bite into the ranch hand, just seeing like the feeling of nostalgia on his face. It's just good memories like that you cherish. One of the beautiful things, I'm getting a little sentimental here. But one of the beautiful things about a memory is, for the most part, depending on your health. Now, you obviously can lose your memory depending on some health ailments. And you see that with family and Parkinson's in a lot of ways. But for the most part, these phenomenal memories we have of family and friends that we cherish in our minds are these phenomenal possessions, or these little jewels that we can carry around. And when we think of these memories, we can reflect. And in that moment, however long it lasts, we reflect and enjoy a feeling of happiness, if that's what associated with the memory. Or maybe it's competitive spirit, or a feeling of winning something, or the feeling of loss or heartbreak. But these memories, as I get older, I cherish more because they offer escape into a time that touched me in a way soulfully. So when I reflect on stuff like that as I get older, and maybe that's just a sign of maturation, obviously, as I get older, they mean more to me. So you can see why, as you head down to the end of stage of life, where you're losing mental memory, mental faculty, how that not only is going to devastate you from a self-confidence standpoint, but also those around you that want to share in those memories and those feelings through conversation. Went down in a feelings road right there. We got all feelings here on the I Love CVille show. What's the old saying? The old saying is, once a man, twice a child. You know what I mean? It's like you start off in this world as a kid, and then you start figuring it out as a man and a woman, and then you come out of this world most times as a kid again, as an older person that's going through the same issues you had when you were starting in the world. So we'll talk some memories with Matt. We can get the LittleJohn's GoFundMe on screen. Why don't you do that, Judah? So we can help these guys right here. I want to give me a thumbs up. You see it right there. $20,650 raised of an $85,000 goal. Nothing more than I would rather see this tip for Jason, Matt, and especially Bo Stockton and this trio of entrepreneurs that are committed to saving a Charlottesville institution. And LittleJohn's is a Charlottesville institution. I'll table the New York City headline for after the interview with Matt. I'm excited to welcome Matt to the broadcast. So Matt, if you're watching, we're going to reach out to you now. Judah, I got Skype ringing. I'll let you know when he's on the broadcast so I can get him patched through across the I Love CVille show. I'm excited to help these guys because they're genuinely coming from a good spot to try to save LittleJohn's. And that really excites me. And I think the corner needs some saving because the last thing I want to see is you know, the Cavalier Daily had a story about this in today's edition. And in today's edition of the Cavalier Daily, the humor columnist, yes, I read the Cavalier Daily, the humor columnist in the Cavalier Daily literally was writing about the proliferation of so many banks on the UVA corner. She goes, everywhere I look, on the UVA corner, there's a bank from a different brand. And J-Dubs, I'm not getting Matt on the line. I'll send you a text if you're watching here, Matt. I tried Skyping you twice. I'll try Skyping you in 1 minute, Matt. Skyping you again in 1 minute. So that'll be the third time there to try to reach you. So the humor columnist in the Cavalier Daily, she said, walk through the corner in the University of Virginia and you see banks everywhere. I think there's three that I know of, and I'm pretty sure there's 4 different banks. And then she literally said in the column, she goes, what are these things called banks? Don't they know that 18 and 22-year-olds do not use them? These things, and I got the Skype coming in through him. You want to try to do it this way, Judah?
Sure.
I just took the call. Let's see if we can welcome Matt now, J-Dubs. He's connected here. Matt, I think we got you here. Let's see. Okay, you're good. So I'm going to throw this to you, Matt, and we have you on the line. So you're live here. You got a lot of folks watching here. Matt, we were talking about this column that was in the Daily Progress about, in the Cavalier Daily, about there's being all these banks all over the UVA corner, and the UVA student is like, we don't even know what these things are. Our parents set up these accounts. We're using Venmo. We're just transferring the money on our phones. We don't know what these things are. We would much rather go to the Virginian, to LittleJohn's, to Michael's Bistro, than to these brands that we have no personal ties to. So, Matt, let's welcome you on that note. I mean, you got personal attachment to many of the brands on the corner, two especially in LittleJohn's and Michael's Bistro that are near and dear to your heart. I'm talking sweat equity. Why don't you take a moment and introduce yourself to everybody that's watching?
You broke up a little bit there. What was the question?
Give us an introduction to yourself. What are you all about?
I've been at the bistro since 2008, and then I worked there prior as a sous chef.
You got him frozen over there?
Yeah, he looks frozen to me.
Yeah, it looks frozen on my end. Matt, you look frozen over here. Let's see if we can get him. We'll get him one more time here. Man, I really want to hear your story, Matt. That's what I'm trying here. I'm trying him one more time, J-Dubs, to see if we can get him. And then if we don't, we will we'll run headlines on the back end. Let's see. You know what? We got so much news. Matt, if you get this, we'd love to power you through. Give us a Skype back. But we got so many headlines we need to get to regardless. I want to get back to that NYC one. If you get that on screen, that would be good. I think that the future for the Big Apple, and I've been covering this since COVID broke, is pretty murky. And apartment sales have plunged in July, according to Douglas Elliman, one of the premier real estate firms in the Big Apple, to a low that they have not seen in years. You're talking about folks sprinting for Connecticut in the suburbs. And why they're sprinting for Connecticut in the suburbs is because of COVID. And what's happening is the city is losing a wealthy tax base. And the wealthy tax base the city is losing because it's selling its apartments in the city and going to the burbs. That wealthy tax base was oftentimes the money that was used to fund the schools, the roads, and a lot of the upkeep on the city. So what you've seen happen over the last 90 to 120 days in the city is a deterioration in like critical components of quality of life. You have more litter. You have schools with same thing Charlottesville is going through. Same thing Charlottesville's going through, but at much more magnified and macro scale. What is Charlottesville going through right now? The $200 million budget that we have for fiscal year 2021 is operating at what? Roughly 8 to 10% deficit. Why we're at an 8 to 10% deficit for this budget is because F&B, food and beverage, retail, restaurants, hospitality, tourism, you name it, that revenue is down. It's down across the Commonwealth. It's down in Albemarle County. It's down in the city of Charlottesville. I bet you'd be hard-pressed to find a municipality in America where their operating budget, due to tax revenue shortages, was not operating at a deficit for fiscal year 2021. Well, it's magnified 10x in the Big Apple and in New York City. Why it's magnified 10x is because you got a hell of a lot more people, a hell of a lot more businesses, a hell of a lot more costs and overhead associated with upkeeping the Big Apple, right? A hell of a lot more. So you're seeing litter, you're seeing crime, you're seeing schools not having the funding, police stations, EMTs, firefighters not having the funding. I mean, it's just turning into a very messy situation. And the wealthy are sprinting out of the Big Apple and taking their real estate tax base with them and bringing them to suburbs, to Connecticut, to Westchester, to Charlottesville, to the Hamptons, to Long Island. This will impact, I promise you, Charlottesville and Central Virginia, where even if a small percentage of people come from densely populated areas down here, this will uptick the price of housing, the price of housing stock, and it will further pinch an already tight inventory stock. Mark it down. Mark it down. The reason I'm following NYC and its residents sprinting for the burbs is because there's a correlation with folks coming to CVille in our community. And that's what we're all about on the I Love CVille show. The next one I want to get to on this program is sports related. If you can get the one up from ACC, and this straight up affects your bottom line. And even if you're not a business owner, this affects your bottom line in Charlottesville. I'm going to tell you why. And the question is, will we have fall ACC sports? Will we have fall ACC sports? The athletic directors, the presidents and chancellors of the Atlantic Coast Conference appear to be operating or marching to the beat of a different drum. Yesterday, the scuttlebutt has the Big Ten canceling football and fall sports. And this is after a number of conferences have already done it. UMass just announced the cancellation of fall sports. UMass did today. Scuttlebutt's the Big Ten. But the ACC says, look, we're going to move forward and try to have this. We're going to move forward and try to have this. So I cannot see, I'm not trying to be down here, but I cannot see the ACC being the only conference having football. And if the Big Ten, one of the Power Five, falls, I think that's going to create a domino effect of at least maybe the Pac-12 or maybe another one. And if two of the Power Five fall, that's 40%. If two of the Power Five conferences fall, that's 40% of them. That's going to put a hell of a lot of pressure on the remaining three. And to localize that from Charlottesville, even having football, even without fans, I don't think we're going to have fans. You may have limited capacity, 25%. I even doubt that, especially early in the season. But just having football over in empty arenas, that will spur the economy. That will get people going to the Virginian and the Biltmore and Peloton Station and Boylan Heights and Trinity and Citizen Burger Bar and Lazy Parrot Grill and Timberwood Tap House and Dirty Nelly's. That will get people out. Even just having sports in front of empty people, empty arenas, will get people going out. So follow what the ACC is doing closely. Athletic directors, unfortunately, do not have the final call. The folks with the final call are the presidents of the universities. So Jim Ryan's answering to a board of visitors. Maybe it's the board of visitors through the presidents having the final call. Now, JMU just suspended fall sports. That headline on screen. If you're a fan of James Madison University, a national champion, this program, a true success story for Harrisonburg. JMU, a renowned 1AA school. Heck, JMU, a school that's recognized on all college football fronts after winning a national championship. It's not going to have a fall sports season, which includes football. JMU is leading the charge with trying to have the fall football season in the spring. It is one of the ringleaders of taking fall football and bringing it to the spring. Whether that happens, only time will tell. Do you understand the roadblocks of having college football in the spring? How's that going to impact the NFL draft? How is having college football in the spring going to impact the NFL draft? Or all the TV deals that have already been negotiated? Is it going to start after March Madness? I mean, serious things to consider right there. And one other serious one to consider, especially if you're a high school athlete or if you're a mom and dad of a college athlete that is non-revenue, or if you're a fan of the tennis, golfs, track and field, cross countries of the world. Here's the headline, and get it on screen from cleveland.com. So a lot of schools that are not in the Power Five conferences, the JMUs of the world, the William & Marys of the world, the colleges from the MAC, the colleges from the Mid-American Conference. I mean, one of the ways Boise State, one of the ways UConn football back in the day got on the spectrum is by playing big-time schools from the power conferences on Thursday nights or Friday nights. Well, guys, the small colleges that went on Thursday night into hostile territory, into Alabama, or the small college like JMU, the small college like William & Mary, that went into hostile territory. Remember when Appalachian State beat Michigan? The small colleges that went into hostile territory on weird nights or weird days and played college football games for huge bags of money, and those huge bags of money were then used to fund and capitalize non-revenue sports across the athletic department. Those games are not happening now. Remember, the ACC is doing basically a conference only and then one out-of-conference game. So a lot of those cross-state lines games are not happening. So athletic departments are straight up saying we're hemorrhaging, and this is going to impact scholarships, and it's notably going to impact non-revenue sports. And I'm very concerned it's going to impact juniors and seniors in high school who have aspirations of playing college sports. Not the ones that could be pros, the ones that just want to play college sports, them not having scholarships like they once had, the volume of offers like they once had, because the department doesn't have the money to fund those scholarships. I'm worried about seniors in high school, juniors in high school, not having the collegiate scholarship opportunity because we won't have the big revenue games and the big revenue sports played this calendar year. It's a serious, COVID is creating a budget crisis for schools, for local municipalities, and freaking athletic departments. I mean, look at what's happening. Mi madre. If you're a high school athlete, the opportunities that you're going to have, and if you're a non-revenue sport athlete at the college level, the cash that your sport will have will be less. That is a fact. You will have less cash supporting your sport at the collegiate level, especially if you're a non-revenue sport. And if you are a high school athlete looking to play a non-revenue sport at the collegiate level, you could have less scholarship options at your disposal because there's less money in the department. We will cover this on the show moving forward. On tomorrow's show, we're going to welcome Harvey from Guajiros. They have now officially signed their lease. So Harvey at Guajiros and his brothers are going to be moving to the old Parallel 38 spot, the old Latois spot in Midtown. I'm going to ask them, I've seen on Instagram this answer, but I'm going to ask them regardless if the second option, the original location by Coors Brothers, if it's going to stay in operation. I saw on Instagram that it is not, but I'm going to ask them anyway. It is the best Cuban sandwich in Charlottesville. It's a family that runs the business that has come to Charlottesville to pursue the American dream through restaurant ownership, affordable food, priced fairly, served quickly, with a smile that tastes good. And now they make the leap from somewhat of an off-the-beaten-path location to a more prominent midtown location known as a dining district. So another business in COVID-19, and there have been a few, Hunter Smith at Champion Hospitality Group is expanding left and right. Hunter Smith of Champion Hospitality Group taking over the Commonwealth Sky Bar, doing a little restaurant over there. Restaurant bar action over there. Hunter Smith Champion Hospitality Group doing the joint venture with Craig Hartman, the Icebox in Gordonsville. He's also doing the little retail next to Brasier Cezanne, where you can get a grab-and-go sandwich and bottle of wine. Literally a grab-and-go type situation. Okay, he's expanding. We have had strong growth in all aspects of our business. Real estate, 27 tenants, waiting list, network, on-air broadcasting, and the B2B advertising agency. We're booming. Patty Zeller at Animal Connection is expanding her business from McIntyre Plaza to X Park to add more square feet, more services, and more vertically integrate her model. She's expanding. Okay, Harvey and his brothers at Guajiros expanding. It's important that we celebrate the success stories at all times. It's certainly important that we celebrate the success stories during COVID times. I want to, before I close with viewer comments, now is your time to get comments on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, direct message. Put them in the comment section. I will relay them on air in 30 seconds. I will get to a final word. Before I do, I want to highlight the $288 our guests, our viewers, can save through Ting Fiber Internet. The best internet possible in our town is Ting Fiber Internet. And our partners at Ting are offering everyone an opportunity to save $288, free installation, and the first month's free through this link and this link only. Are you ready? ilovecville.ting.com. Save $288 at a time where the internet is paramount and critical. You got to have reliable Wi-Fi. I'm going to get to comments here on the show. Judah Wickower. Carol Thorpe, who I very much enjoy when she comments on this broadcast. She says, Jerry, I'm following up. I saw this, Carol, and I love your comment here. Jerry, I'm following up on the Albemarle County Blue Shirt Ambassador Snitching Program. Rob Schilling researched and reported this weekend there is a way that businesses can choose to opt out of participation of the program. They can request that no ambassadors visit their business, period. If you like, I will forward you the information later today. Carol Thorpe, yes, please. And Carol Thorpe, I appreciate your viewership and the perspective that you share across our network. Thank you, Carol Thorpe. And in regards to Rob Schilling, while our politics are not often aligned, I respect what you do as a broadcaster, and I welcome you to the I Love CVille network. You can host and execute your program on this network, Rob Schilling. We will figure out a joint venture, revenue share of some capacity. Leverage our robust, innovative, very cutting-edge technology and our personal resources to take your Schilling show to another level on the I Love CVille network. Keith Smith has this comment. Turning malls into affordable housing. How about that idea? This is from Keith Smith of Real Talk, the star of Real Talk. One such project is already underway at the Alderwood Mall in Linwood, Seattle, where developers are transforming parts of the space, including that which once housed its Sears anchor store, into a 300-unit apartment complex. Yona and I are touring this property today. I love it. Take Fashion Square Mall and turn it into affordable housing. I love it. Fashion Square Mall, now a ghost town and a shadow of its former self. Is the proper usage for such a prominent piece of property in such a visible piece of Albemarle County, such a visible aspect of Albemarle County? And Fashion Square Mall is an incredibly visible spot of Albemarle County. Is the best usage of this visible spot of Albemarle County what it is right now? Is the best usage of this structure in one of the most visible positions of Albemarle County, is the best usage of this structure the evolution of anchor stores turning into distribution or warehouse space for Amazon? Hells to the no. Nah, dog. Is a distribution center in Fashion Square Mall going to get anyone to patronize or encourage the patronization of other businesses in and around that distribution? Nah, dog. No way, dog. The only people going to that distribution center, that distro center, are folks that work at the distro center. And I'm quite positive it would take a zoning change. And I just encourage leadership in the community to be mindful of what that can do from a small merchant, brick and mortar, local merchant standpoint. Understand? James Watson. TV contracts, this is what he says. TV contracts are what's wagging the dog for those hanging on to play college football. Nebraska claims they will still play. He's right. Nebraska's legitimately saying it will play regardless of conference affiliation. That's how bad the Cornhuskers and Scott Frost want to play football in Lincoln. We will play regardless of conference affiliation. We just need to play. That's what they're saying. And the money that comes from the TV contracts are not only funding the football program, but the department in totality. I mean, you could be on the, it is not hyperbole to suggest that if football and basketball are not played, the entire department could collapse almost as if it's a house of cards. That is not hyperbole. That is factual information. From my standpoint, I'm more long-term vision thinker. I'm just thinking about men's basketball and this Wahoo men's basketball team and having a men's basketball season, frankly. That's what I'm thinking right now. I love the Wahoo's men's basketball team. Do I think we're going to have I've said this so many times on this program here. The college presidents are saying to 99% of your student body, don't return to grounds because your safety is not secure due to COVID-19. Yet, less than 1% of its student body, football players and athletes, we are considering you playing a sport where you have to bleed, sweat, tackle, touch, fall, and breathe on each other. Yet the rest of your peers were asking to stay home. How does that work? How does that work? How would that work legally? How would that work? It's just like the epitome of a contradiction. And this is coming from a guy that freaking loves football and wants nothing more than a football game. I'm just a realist. How would that work? New headline coming in. Louise Smith says, Jerry, hello from Crozet. I love your show. I try to catch it as much as possible. In fact, this is how we get our news. Thank you very much for covering Staunton. We often go there to enjoy their downtown scene. We know they need all the help they can get. Please remind your viewers that the mayor is now asking for volunteer help to close and clear debris from downtown Staunton. That's important. She's exactly right. The mayor of Staunton has gone on record today and said, we need help clearing debris from our downtown. Anybody that can help, please do it. Thank you, Louise, for that perspective. I don't know, man. I mean, next thing you're going to tell me we're going to have a plague of locusts. Next thing you're going to tell me the bubonic plague is back. The bubonic plague is in vogue. How about some scurvy? We got some scurvy trickling around over there. Hey, matey, we got some scurvy?
The bubonic plague actually has showed up in China recently.
Okay, there we go. The bubonic plague has showed up. Is that Judah Wickhauer right there? That's why we keep you around. I mean, how about scurvy? Is scurvy around, Judah?
Not so much, but I think that has more to do with malnutrition.
Tony Lichmansky. We tried talking LittleJohns. We could not get Matt on the line, but we do love LittleJohns. I mean, Bo and Jason know I love this place. They know I love this place. I mean, that's why we've had Bo, Jason, and tried to have Matt on twice. If I didn't love LittleJohns, we wouldn't be doing this. Help them. They're straight up asking for help. They're straight up asking for help. Help them. Put it on screen again, the GoFundMe. Help them. Dudes, it's like real. Especially the businesses that are direct B2C, business to consumer, business to customer of students at UVA. It is real. Help them. I mean, when the athletic department at the University of Virginia is doing a GoFundMe, you know it is Darwinism out there. It's Darwinistic world out there. Oh, Carol, please send me that information of how businesses can opt out of being snitched by the blue shirts that are funded with $125,000 of Albemarle County tax dollars. Please send me that information. And Rob Schilling, I meant what I said. If you want to do the show and take your show to another level and amplify your message and secure some big-time sponsors and do a rev share joint venture with us, let's do your phenomenal programming in this network that's got the best technology, the largest reach, and has surpassed any media outlet for reach. And let's put it on here and then watch what happens. I'll take care of the rest. All you got to do is do your thing behind the mic. I will take care of the rest. Logistics, finances, business, vision, where we're going. it will crush, crush, crush. This is the I Love CVille show. You guys need to get in a safe way. And if you don't feel comfortable doing this, I'll close on this. Miller's Minute, final word. You guys, more than ever, all of us, me, you, friends, homies, family, we gotta get and support these guys that are local. I mean, it's on the cusp of being very precarious and in peril. I mean, already there, but really falling hard here. We got to support the little guys, the local merchants who create the jobs. We know the stimulus money, the money that the federal government was getting into folks to help supplement income, we know that's hasta luego. We know we have one more stimulus package potentially on the horizon. We know that stimulus package that's potentially on the horizon is still a little bit ways away, and we know that stimulus package that's potentially on the horizon is not going to be at the full magnitude or at the full freight or the full term, the full longevity, the full robust nature of the first one. So the next money you get from the federal government, it's not going to be the same amount of dinero, same amount of banks, same amount of bills, green, money, cash, moolah, coins, jack. Okay? So, guys, we know students and UVA in sports are up in the air. I think the second, third, and fourth years are still going to return to Charlottesville, but they may not be coming out in the force that they once did as if school was on grounds and happening in person. We know that jobs have been lost, especially in the restaurant, hospitality, F&B space. We got to get out with the mask on and safely and spend the money that a lot of us have been saving over the last 6 months. And I'm going to be cut to the chase. There's a lot of folks that have been saving money since March to now, because they haven't been going out. They haven't been going to happy hour. They haven't been going to the brewery. They haven't been going on staycations, maybe heck, even a summer vacation. They haven't been eating out for restaurants. They've been staying in. They've been saving money. It's time now to take that money that we've been saving and get it back on the street locally. Because if we don't, jobs are not going to come back. Businesses are going to close. And the next thing you know, you're going to walk from Elliowood Avenue to 14th Street to 10th Street. And as the Cavalier Daily humor columnist penned today, you're going to see Bank of America, SunTrust, Wells Fargo, JP Morgan Chase, Citibank, Truist Financial, and it's just going to be this big box of nothing with local flavor, but brands that had the burn rate, the cash disposal to sustain a pandemic and come out on the other side. And the thing that I love about going out in this town is I love going out in this town and getting a cup of coffee from Java, and the next day getting a cup of coffee from Munhouse or Grit, and having a taste of that Java, and then having a taste of that Grit, and realizing that they taste different and they're both good. And the last thing I want is to go out and be like, Starbucks on Monday. Wait, there's no other options? Where are the local guys? I need coffee. Starbucks on Tuesday. It tastes the same. I don't want that. Get it? We'll close on that note. We need jobs created. And the only way we're going to get jobs created is if we go back out and take the money we've been squirreling away with mask on our face and support the people that need our support. And you know what that's called? Community. You heard? It's called community. And that's the Tuesday edition of the I Love CVille show. My name is Jerry Miller.